farm.
Yeah, well, we'll get a shot of that.
Oh, tomorrow?
Tomorrow too, because it's not all out there. As far as machinery lineup, maybe we could get a shot of the hog confinement buildings.
Well,
and,
can we
and
just walk
the
this
machine
way?
shed.
I think we're on. So this up here on the right is where you raised your 2,000 pigs, I believe.
Yeah. 2,000 a year. There weren't 2,000 at one time, but that was the output in a year. And they were confined in here from the time they were born until they went out the door for market. The only ones that were outside were the sows during gestation.
While we're walking through this snow, we should add that, what is the date today? The
January
31st.
January 31st, and we're here in our, more or less, our shirt sleeves.
Yeah.
It's 40 degrees today, but you see a lot of snow, and it has been the more typical 0 to 20 below. So what you're seeing is extremely extraordinary for this time of year here.
Well, Frank, since you have the mic now, the cameraman can fan this. I think you have a few. Hand it over to you.
Yeah. There are two buildings here. One of them is a farrowing building, which means that the sows or the mother hogs, that's where they had their young, in this building. And then the other end of the building was where they went when they were weaned, taken away from their mothers. And they were in there for about 6 weeks in a environmentally controlled building. It was heated just like everybody's house, and kept at 70 degrees even on the coldest days. And from there, they came out the door and they came over to the next building.
On the left.
On the left, which is called a finishing unit, which holds about 600 hogs. And in there isn't any heat except the animal heat. But when it's full of animals, it never freezes. So some of these people that think that these confined animals got it so tough, if they could have been out here with the weather we've had this winter and seen what it was like outside versus what it is like inside of those buildings, I think they would change their mind about how these animals, what kind of care the animals get.
Well, now, Pat, you cranked down the pig operation. When was the last shipment of hogs, and how many were there?
Yeah, well, it takes a while to phase it out. Actually, it takes about 6 months from the time they're born until they go out the door. So it was about a year ago. The last ones went out the door.
Rid of the dads.
Yes, and then that solved the problem of getting any more pigs.
That's very good.
Yeah.
Well, Dave, maybe while you're scanning some of the farm equipment assembled here for the auction, my brother Frank can tell us a little bit of some of his earliest memories here on the farm and with Dad.
Well, one of my earliest memories was I must have been about 4 years old, and my father hitched up a team of horses to a wagon and went to visit an elderly couple near here that ran a truck garden. Their name was Grip, and Mrs. Grip liked children, so she gave me a piece of gingerbread cake, and my father was in a hurry, so it was agreed that I would eat it on the way home. I took one little bite and decided I did not like gingerbread cake, so when my father wasn't looking, I threw it out the back of the wagon on the road, and I certainly hoped that Mrs. Grip would never find out. Jumping ahead about 6 years, I remember a situation of a bad storm was going on, and Louis Johnson, from whom my father bought the 60 acres that was mentioned earlier, came. And as a child that age, you never think of old people like that. He was probably 45, as cutting up. So we told how terrible the storm was, and he said, well, this isn't a bad storm. You should have seen the storms as they were when I was a child. Why, I remember a blizzard that was so bad that my father, the hired man, and myself had all we could do to hold an overcoat over the keyhole to keep the blizzard out of the living room. Jumping ahead again, about 6 or 7 years, I went to town. I was about 16 years old, and we didn't exactly have a curfew, but it was certainly understood that we would be home at a reasonable hour, which I suppose was 12 or 1 o'clock. Well, I came home about 4 in the morning. The sun was coming up, I think, in the summer. And my mother had a dog named Kilroy, and I remember the dog barking its head off, and my father got up, came out in his pajamas to see what was going on, and I had to think fast. So we didn't have indoor plumbing at that time, so I took off everything except my pants and wadded my shirt coat up and pretended I was walking in from the outdoor plumbing. And I told my father that, well, the dog must have barked because I had to get up to go to the bathroom. Well, I didn't learn for about 30 years from my mother that she didn't believe a word of it. When my father came back to bed and explained that I had really got up to go to the outhouse, she said, "You didn't swallow that line, did you?" But that was a long time later that I heard that.
That outhouse is right behind us. That's not where it was when he tried to pull a fast one, but it used to be up by the house. Isn't that the original outhouse?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah.
And the last...
It's not in working order
it's
right now.
It's not working right now.
No.
And the last thing that went through my mind this morning when I learned we were creating this Academy Award-winning movie here was, I believe it was at our father's funeral. He was 60 and I was 30 years old, and we felt awful. And our Uncle Jim, one of our favorite uncles, came, and after the funeral was over, what was to do but somebody opened a bottle of whiskey, and we stood out in the barnyard in a bit of a circle. And in those days, you simply passed the bottle around and drank it. There wasn't any such thing as ice or diluting it with water. And the bottle was about to be handed to my uncle, and he said, I don't think, my uncle was from a rural area and was raised in a farm near here, and he knew all about things in the farm. He said, I don't think you have the proper protocol. He said, when you hand that bottle to me, you're supposed to put your thumb over the top of the bottle. And there's a good reason for it. It is to keep the box elder bugs, which were around in plagues, out of the bottle when you pass from one to the next. So I have many memories, but those are 4 of them. So, Bob, I'm going to hand the mic back to you.
Well, I was the youngest, and this farm was a wonderful place to grow up. Although we remember we worked hard, I think we enjoyed it also. But standing here behind us in this somewhat decrepit cluster of trees, I remember when our elder brother Pat built a tree house in a tree up here. And I'm sure he knows this. We all came up and used it also. And I felt a sign of my manhood as a little boy was to be able to crawl up into that tree, and you would generally get very frightened and to very cautiously and carefully come back down. But there used to be water in here. It was a pond that kind of a runoff from the artesian well.
Flowing artesian well.
And that is where I learned to swim. Did you learn to swim in there?
No, I didn't.
Amid all this muck. But I think growing up in the farm, we were all quite healthy, even with all that muck. I never had a cavity till I went away to college.
Well, we strained the milk.
Well, we strained it with a dishcloth. Our grandparents lived uptown, and I remember as a little boy, I never liked their milk or their water.
No.
Because we had milk straight from the tit. At supper, it was still warm, probably about 1 hour out of the cow. Yeah. And let's see, some of our wives are city girls. I don't think they would have made it here. When I tell my wife, the cow occasionally put her hoof into the milk pail. You just took the hoof out, and you kind of took the big gobbers out, and the cheesecloth and the strainer got the rest, and you drank it.
Right.
I think that, along with the artesian, with the hard water, gave us a strong immunity.
Well, you remember, too, in the spring of the year, when the grass got green, and the cows ate the grass, and the milk tasted it was green milk.
Oh, it was horrible.
It had a greenish tinge to it. It tasted a little like grass.
That's right. Yeah, that was so strong you couldn't eat it sometime.
Yeah. Couldn't eat it, the milk.
Couldn't drink it. Well, maybe we should waltz up towards the house and...
kept our machinery. We weren't able to get it all in here. This building's 54 by 99. The 2 combines you see there give you some idea of the size of it. But when we were in full operation, I would suppose that less than half the machinery we were able to put in this building. We took the most, the combines and the higher priced items were the ones that we kept housed. This one combine here, the 6600, is 20 years old, but that machine has never been outside except when it was in use. So you can see after all these years.
That's very good condition.
Yeah.
Well, as Dave focuses out here, what are we looking at, Pat?
Yeah.
Over on the right here?
Yeah. Well, let's go this way a little bit. This is our grain storage and drying setup. We can store 50,000 bushels of grain over here, and this past fall we installed a new grain dryer over here, and all of the conveying equipment, which was a minor investment of about $60,000.
That's where it says MC?
MC, right, yes.
So that produces heat?
It heats and dries and cools the corn. It'll dry, depending on the moisture content of the corn, it'll dry from 3 to 500 bushels an hour. And you need something like this. A combine in irrigated corn can combine. We can take out 10,000 bushels a day.
Wow. Well, and all of those buildings.
Bins, yeah.
Bins.
Yeah.
Is there anything in them now?
They're all full. They're all full of corn.
All full of corn.
Yeah, they're all full of last year's crop. Yeah.
No garage of the Lyons family farm, which Pat has recently rehabbed, but more importantly, we're standing in front of a B farm-all tractor, which Pat can tell us a little bit about.
Well, that tractor belonged to Seth Johansson, a neighbor over here. Seth was a nice guy, but he was very particular. And I can remember the year he bought this tractor, he had a 2-row cultivator on it. And he wanted to put the cultivator in out of the weather, and he only had a walk-in door, and it wouldn't go through it, so he took it all apart. Had to put it inside. So anyway, Seth passed away in later years, and so I bought his Farm-all B. They were made from, I suppose, 1941 to 1948. And I've had this tractor restored, along with there's 4 others I've had restored. And I just like
this is a sweetheart of a tractor. Wouldn't every gardener love to have that one?
Yeah. Yep.
All right, there's a beautiful green bicycle, which you claim that that's an example of how I kept the equipment.
Yeah. Well, tell them why the wheel's missing off the front.
Well, if that's the one, when my twin sister, when we were little kids, one day I decided I wanted a bicycle built for 2. But I'm very limited in understanding physics and things of that sort. So what I did was I took the front wheel off her bike and mounted it on the rear wheel of my bike. So I really had a 3-wheeled bicycle. And when I said, get on, she got on, but immediately toppled, and I kind of dragged her through a ditch, I think. And then I discovered, is that rules of physics, perhaps, I was discovering, that it doesn't quite work